Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks to the helpful Hobbs last week for filling in, but this is one of the two promised videos. It's a witch mirror match. The finals against Kevin and Joffrey. It's a witch mirror match, and decks are very similar. They're both mono red witch. Gas pedal, got to go fast. Um, and thank you for everybody who joined this summit event. It was a lot of fun. Wave Shaper did really well. I think like 30 or 40% of people played Wave Shaper, and Wave Shaper is a very interesting deck to play. If we're in a mid-range, big dumb minion meta with Gothic, watch out for Wave Shaper. But this game was a very, very good game. A lot of close decisions. There's one turn I think that just like helps the tide kind of turn, but with mono red v mono red, it is very important to like I don't know, like always be in control and always have the minion on board ready to attack. And how to say this, like that tempo that you want to suffocate your opponent. And honestly, it's kind of very similar to limited, where you always want to have that minion ready to attack. You're the one in control of, you have to respond to my minion. If you can like break that parity of like remove a thing and play a thing, and then you have that minion ready to attack, now you're in control of that game. It's very important to always have that control. It's a very hard and very tight line to walk. Sometimes you just run out of gas, and that's just what happens with an aggro strategy. But if you can, I don't know, always hold that priority almost, it can be very, very hard for your opponent to win. And I think here is Joffrey's. So I should say Joffrey's on the bottom and Kevin is on the top here. Joffrey plays a Rift Valley and pulls apart the column. Like, I don't know if I would have done this, just because now my ability to block and control the board is a little worse. And we see a poison well in Kevin's hand, and so he can kind of slow roll this and really get a good poison well off. Now Joffrey didn't know he had a poison well, but like if I see two fire sites from my opponent, I don't think I'm pulling apart any sites. I'm gonna try to not separate, but keep my stuff tight and not let him come to me very easily. Fire and red, it's just like I don't want anything. Do not come close to me, please. Then again, the Rift Valley with the Vesuvius here now is just it's just super punishing. So this is kind of like the tempo thing I was talking about, where now Joffrey did attack first, and he does have an aggro deck, and this is kind of what he wants to do. But now Kevin has this minion that's ready to attack, and Joffrey has to respond to this. And I think he makes a good decision and plays Minor Explosion to remove this minion. But that's not really solving the problem, because then next turn Kevin can just play another minion that now he's still in control of the minion who is ready to attack. Now if Joffrey played a Dragonets here to block like the attack, that's a perfect way of getting blown out, because that minion is not going to survive. There's just so many ways to remove that minion in fire. And so if he plays a minion, I'll block this minion next turn. It's not going to happen. And then he's down a card, and there's two minions on board, and then you just get steamrolled from there. So removing that minion is very important. And here I think this turn and the next turn are very crucial for Kevin. And he gets a really good poison well, pings for 3 off of a site, which is just really strong. And then plays another charge minion. And this is the power of charge, is like this tempo. You never lose any tempo. And he plays a cavalry and attacks for 3. And so he's still in control of that minion who's ready to attack. And this is where red, and if you're in a hyper aggro strategy, is really, really strong. You need to like notice this, or like figure out how to keep this ball rolling to suffocate your opponent, to always be in control. And then so Joffrey's kind of like out of good answers. And if Joffrey played a Dragonets, it'd be easy to remove, and then just still that steamroll is still going. But he has Brother Knight, so it's a little bit harder to remove both things, but still not impossible. It's just a rough spot to be in. And then I think this turn, that Kevin's next turn, is the most crucial turn, and it allows Joffrey to like kind of like start turning the tide. So Joffrey passes, and I think Kevin should draw a sight here. Now, I think he should draw a sight here because he has a lot of 4 and 2 drop cards in his deck, and that's just red in general. And so being at 5 allows you to, like, I want a double spell. Oh, I can now draw a sight and go to 6. That's just like the little decision that might matter in the last 3 turns of the game. But it's hard to know that. And also, if he wants to stay at 4, he has Vesuvius right now, and giving Joffrey enough time or enough turns to make a decision to walk away. Joffrey's at 4, so a lot of his cards are now being able to play. A lot of fire is at 3 and 4, so Joffrey can probably take that turn and walk away. Or if he had a Warhorse, just move away. Like, this Vesuvius needs to be used to have its value. So I'm going to pause it here. Now, I think Kevin should have drawn a sight. So he could have popped Vesuvius, dealt 3, and then also played a sight and still been at 4. And then you got value out of your Vesuvius. I would have done something like that here. And then also I would have traded a cavalry into a Brother Knight and a Warhorse into a Brother Knight. The other option is to trade cavalry into Brother Knight and then infiltrate the next Brother Knight. Now he has, again, that minion on board ready to attack. And I want to be clear, I don't think Kevin played wrong. Just my perspective of playing a lot of aggro stuff and where I would want to keep that ability to attack next turn and keeping the board clear. Keeping the board clear is very important in this double aggro match. If you let somebody keep a minion around, it will steamroll, or just that little foothold is just that one turn you need to like come back. I've been in a lot of aggro v aggro matches where I just can never, if I'm on the play and on the back foot, you can never keep a minion on board. Again, same thing with limited. Limited sorcery, if you keep the board clear and you're always the one that has the minion ready to attack, it is so much easier to control that game. Again, it's very similar to this like aggro v aggro tempo style sorcery match. All right, we'll go see what Kevin ends up doing. All right, so Kevin ends up attempting to attack and then blocks, so takes care of one Brother Knight. That seems pretty good. And then plays Saracen Raiders, picks up the Lance, and attacks the Rift Valley. So in this scenario, Joffrey is at 10, but he has like ways now to start pushing back. If this Brother Knight wasn't around, Saracen Raiders still could come in next turn and be that minion ready to attack. But the board would be clear. And say Joffrey plays the Dragonettes to 14 or 18, 19, somewhere in there. Saracen Raiders could take care of that and keep the board clear. Or Kevin could just infiltrate the next minion that Joffrey plays. It is always keeping the board clear and always having a thing ready to be answered. And if Kevin had infiltrated the Brother Knight and attacked with the Petrosian Cavalry on the other one, he has the Brother Knight ready to attack. He could have attacked 18 and then popped Vesuvius and taken care of that minion and gotten 3 damage out of his infiltrate. and then still had Saracen Raiders to follow up. So then we have, again, Joffrey's clearing the board, and now the tide has turned in this game. It's still a very close game, but now Joffrey has the minion who's on board ready to attack. Now, Kevin does have the Warhorse with charge, so that kind of negates that a little bit, but this is how you turn the tide in these like tempo games. You do all you can to save a minion, and you are now the person with the minion ready to attack. I know I've been saying ready to attack a lot, but that's just like a very core concept that people need to understand in tempo, in this aggro v aggro. Maybe your local meta is kind of aggressive. Also, when playing Sorcery Limited, it is very important to have that minion ready to attack. So in Limited, I will take a lot of damage, just not blocking, because there is no benefit in blocking a lot of the time, because if you do have a profitable block, your opponent can play a desert or an imp or some way to remove that minion that you just quote unquote ate for free. So a lot of time I will just take the hit and kill it on my turn, so my opponent can't kill my minion. Saving those 4 powers and having that minion ready off summoning sickness is very important. So Joffrey he gets a huge card here with Morgana, saves him in this match, along with the ability to keep that minion on board. So he has a Minor Explosion, a Great Famine, and a Warhorse out of the Morgana's hand. And I think this is a very strong play from Joffrey of like, I'm going to tap and draw a sight instead of drain for 2. Tapping to draw a sight is drawing a card. It is not to be understated on how strong that is. If there was a game or a thing that said you get to draw 2 cards a turn, how good is that? The tap mechanic here to draw a sight is card advantage. I don't think people tap to draw enough sights. Now, Kevin did get Fields of Camelon, and that's a really, really strong card. Another strat... Oh, no, I was going to say if Joffrey blocked with Morgana, but he can't. It had stealth. The Brother Knight had stealth. And then, like, also the power of Infiltrate is to use your opponent's minions and put them in a spot where you can attack and then remove them for free. So then it's removal and damage. Now Joffrey is going down to 0 this turn, and Brother Climb, but he has Morgana and Brother Knight on board to help start turning the tide, and Kevin here drains him for the last point of damage. But I see where Kevin's going with this, with the Warhorse of like getting him to door, coming up to 13, and I'm going to use Firebolts to finish the game. But going against Joffrey and some of the best players, that's too straightforward. You'll see that coming a mile away. And so I think even if Joffrey didn't have Morgana in this turn, he can still deal with Warhorse with that desert. He can play it to 9, ping Warhorse, and then play Dragonets on 18 and take care of Warhorse. Now, that's not a great situation to be in, but it's very... Things don't survive. There's so many ways to remove 2 and 3 power minions. And also, Joffrey, when he tapped to draw a sight, was a very good decision, not only because it's card advantage, but in his Morgana's hand, he had a 2 and 3 drop, and he needed to be at 5. So it was just looking that little turn ahead is very important. And after this game was over, talking to Kevin, there was the last turn, he needed 6 mana to double spell. And double spelling when you're trying to finish out the game can be that oppressive backbreaking thing. And so Fields here is huge, honestly. Destroying 2 minions for basically free is really rough. Joffrey makes a really good decision, keeps the one thing for a blocker. Like these, like maybe you kept Morgana because you wanted you could keep Morgana because you wanted her last card, but being at door, you have to look out for Saracen Raiders. It's knowing the kill spells. And Kevin did kind of like his draws kind of got a little worse throughout the game, and Joffrey did get a Morgana, which did help, but the life totals are 0 to 6 right now. Kevin's goal right now is just not to die, removing as many minions as he can, looking for that kill spell. And this is a great situation to show the mechanic of Death's Door. Joffrey has used his movement abilities, his Warhorse, to get out of line of sight. And I understand that, like, it can be frustrating for people to play into people who see the Death's Door as a mechanic that just doesn't end games. Well, that's true, but I feel like that's like a part of the sorcery is like you can live at Death's Door for so long if you play well and you know your opponent's outs, if you know how to play around like to like weasel out wins, and really good players to like weasel out wins and getting that like extra percentage of wins. It is a strong mechanic. And so right now, Kevin's goal is to not die. He's at 6. He has a 3 power minion looking at him on the board ready to attack. I know it feels wrong to step up and use your kill spell on this minion, but minions cannot survive. Like, if you leave minions on the board, you're probably going to get hit for more than just the damage on board for some way. You have Grims, you have Mass, you have Boudica. Like, these explosion cards are not uncommon. So no minions get to survive in my book. Fire, so and Kevin he's in fire, so there's a lot of outs. There's charge, there's more fire bolts, and maybe there's minor explosions. Like, I know it feels wrong, but this minion can't survive. But Kevin just walked up and passed, and looking to get that fire bolts as the kill spell. But again, it's too linear of a playing against someone like Joffrey, who's as good as he is. So here he plays Boudica. Again, this is where minions don't get to survive because of Boudica, Grim, and Mask and stuff of that nature. So now Kevin is at door. Oh, was he at 9? I'm sorry. He was at 9. And then with the Witch tap and Dragonette's ping, he can take him to door. But again, no minions to get to survive. Now, if he had removed that minion with Firebolts last turn, he and Joffrey say play another Dragonets, and then he has a minion to remove it, or Firebolts, or not Firebolts, but Saracen Raiders and Jihad to remove it. But he's at 5. Maybe there was a turn in the mid game where he could have tapped for a site. I know he drew Fields of Camlin at one point, but like another site to be at 6. And this is where knowing your composition of your deck really comes into play. Do you want to be at 6 or do you want to be at 5 to double spell mid to late game? A lot of aggressive fire minions are at 4, but then a lot of good fire spells are at 2. So even in my Sorcerer Earth Fire list, I like being at 6 because I can do double 3s, 2 and 4. Like, these combinations of double spelling are at 6. There is some stuff you can do at 5, but if you get to 6, you can really start doing more each turn, and then you can just bury your opponent. And what would have happened if Joffrey had played a Dragonets on like 18 after it was removed by Firebolts the turn or 2 before, and then didn't have a Saracen Raiders? Maybe Joffrey just made a slight mistake and didn't have a blocker for Saracen Raiders. That you gotta be prepared for when your opponents make mistakes. But with Kevin being at door, now it's really sketchy. He did have to spend that Firebolts to deal with the Dragonettes. And the question is, does he go to 8 or 12? I think I personally would have gone to 8. Again, it's line of sight. Knowing where your opponent can step. So Joffrey can go up to 15, and he's in line of sight now with that spot. But if he had gone up to 8, he couldn't walk over and use a line of sight spell. He would have to use something else. But he did have Dragonettes, but like these are the little things that will eke out a couple more wins or win percentage. And positioning and line of sight matters very, very much so. Again, thank you, Joffrey. Thank you, Kevin, for playing. And Joffrey wins another summit event. He just won the Crossroads in Europe. Like, the man is a menace. We used to say ban Kyle. I think we have to start saying ban Joffrey. But thank you, everybody, for playing. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You get one more video until Gothic, and that's going to be spoilers at the end of October. Thanks, everybody.